We're back at it again. This is the kind of stuff I absolutely love to do because this is the spooky content at its purest form. You can't get any better than good old-fashioned ghost stories, and for today's list I have dug through the web to find some of the best ones ever told. Are they all true? Are some of them fake? Will any of them make you urinate in your boxers? Well, we will find out. Hello again, Most Amazing Top 10 family. I'm your host, Shade Arena, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Today we are going to be hitting up some classic ghoulish content with our list of top 10 scary ghost stories. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also stick around for the whole list because I'm going to be answering some questions from my Instagram inbox. If you want me to answer your question, you can hit me up through the gram. Without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have the Heart Feaster. This is one thing that I will never want in my life, and I am pretty confident that it will never happen to me, and that is sleep paralysis. Being stuck in a state where you can't move as you hallucinate in the dark sounds like something so villainous even Freddy Krueger wouldn't do it. He'd be like, at least kill them after, don't just let them sit there all night, that's gross. Luckily I sleep like a log, so there's no chance anything like that is going to happen to me, but for some others this can happen quite often. When people are stuck in sleep paralysis, it can be something as simple as having the feeling that someone is watching you as you're sleeping, while other people will have the Heart Feaster. A story online talked about a horrible entity that would come visit someone as they slept. They named this beast the Heart Feaster because it would lurk into their room when they couldn't move and then it would crawl on top of them. The creature looked like its body was made out of a dark crimson and it had long fingers that were almost like claws. Its face resembled a demon with a long pointed nose and jagged teeth. While this person was stuck and unable to move, the Heart Feaster would reach its long piercing fingers into their chest and pull out their heart and start eating it in front of them. Wow. At number 9 we have the Stalker. This next story was told by a young boy who grew up in a very old house. He said strange creaking noises coming from all over the home at any time of night was very common, but what wasn't common was something called the Stalker. Every now and again he would see something out of the corner of his eye. He wouldn't think that it was anything and he would just go on about his business. That was until he saw it. It was something he called the Stalker. He said it looked like the girl from The Ring, but it was on all fours. When he looked at it, the Stalker just stayed in one spot for what felt like an eternity. The ghost was locked in one spot until it scampered into another room. He told his parents about it, but he brushed it off and said it was a dream. However, our writer was certain that it happened because he went to investigate the spot where the Stalker was, and there were 2 wet handprints on the floor. At number 8 we have a short one. Some of my favorite ghost stories are the short ones. It's impressive what you can do with a few sentences. This one goes like this. I woke to the baby monitor crackling with a voice comforting my firstborn. As I adjusted to my new position, my arm brushed my wife sleeping next to me. Ooh, that is creepy. Coming in at number 7 we have imaginary friends. You would be surprised how many kids have imaginary friends that end up being ghosts. In fact, I did a multi-part series on Most Amazing Top 10 all about this. One of the most horrific stories I read about this was a young boy and girl used to have the same imaginary friend. It was just a voice that they would hear. It kept telling them to go into the woods behind their home. They would just ignore it and they really didn't think much of it. In fact, they didn't even know that the other sibling was hearing the voice until they brought it up with each other years later. The scariest part about this was when their younger sister, who was just old enough to talk, started saying that she could hear a voice that told her to go play outside in the trees. Ho ho. Coming in at number 6 we have glowing eyes. A girl was walking home late one night and she can feel something is off. She's not sure what it could be, but she knows she doesn't feel safe. She looks back over her shoulder and she sees a tall man in a trench coat who seems to be swaying side to side as he walks towards her. He's about 30 feet away and she can't make out his face except for a massive grin. This is obviously extremely frightening, so this young lady starts to move quickly, but it seems no matter how fast she moves, he keeps gaining on her. Eventually, she starts running and she can hear laughter start to come from behind her. She's now sprinting and looks back over her shoulder to see how close this man is, and the last thing she sees is the man right behind her with his massive eyes that are glowing red. Coming in at number 5 we have grave robbers. This is a pretty famous story about 2 young boys who wanted to give a scare to their friends. Now, is this story true, or is it just an urban legend? It's hard to tell. Apparently, there were two kids who loved to play pranks on people. One day they decided they wanted to play the ultimate prank by digging up a dead body and scaring their friends with it. So they went to the local graveyard in the middle of the night and they started digging. When they finally worked their way down to the body, they started cheering in excitement. The people living nearby heard the noises and they thought that the dead were rising from their graves. They ran and attacked the two boys, mistaking them for zombies. They were both killed and now their ghosts haunt the graveyard. Coming at number 4, we have voodoo priestesses of New Orleans. New Orleans has a long history of voodoo, and apparently there are people who live out in the bayou who have found a way to communicate with the dead. They will talk to the spirits of the dead who have been left to walk the earth without anyone to listen to them. Because these voodoo practitioners have spent the time learning how to talk to spirits, they can command power over them. They can use the dark magic of the dead to cast spells on people, bringing them misfortune. That really sounds like it sucks. Coming at number 3, we have another short one. Alright, we have room for one more short scary ghost story before I hit you with the top 2. I think this one might be my favorite short ghost story of all time, and it goes like this. My daughter won't stop crying and screaming in the middle of the night. I visit her grave and ask her to stop, but it doesn't help. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Coming in at number 2, we have My Friend in the Basement. A young girl who is about 5 years old moves into a new home with her mom. The two of them love the place, but the mother notices something strange about her daughter. She spends a lot of time in the basement, talking and laughing like there's someone there. Sometimes she'll walk down to check on her to see who she's talking to, and every time there's no one there. One day her daughter comes back upstairs with a bite mark on her arm, and her daughter says, "Richard bit me." Her mom tells her that she is not allowed to play in the basement anymore. Then that night something attacks her daughter in her bed. The mother rushes in the room when she hears the poor daughter screaming. When she finds her daughter, she's still alive, but she has scratch marks all over her body. The next morning the two of them leave the home, never to return. And at the number 1 spot we have the taps. Something that ghosts love to do is turn on the taps and jack up your water bill. If you go online and search for this, you will find countless stories of ghosts who love to mess around with the water. This one was pulled off of Reddit, and it was about a young girl who was living alone, and she was often woken up by the sounds of running water. At first she thought that maybe she forgot to turn off the taps, but it started happening so frequently that she assumed that she was sleepwalking. But then it started happening when she wasn't home. Terrified that someone was breaking into her house when she wasn't there, she called the police. They came to check out the place, but they couldn't find anything. So her next best move was to set up cameras and spend the night at a friend's house. Then she saw it, the taps in the home turning on by themselves. Now it's time to go down the spiritual route and have someone come in and fix the ghost problem. A medium came through to contact the ghost, and it turns out there was a body of a girl who had been drowned in a tub that was in the home, who had been buried under the house. That is spooky. Alright everyone, that has been the list, and now we're going to read out some questions from my Instagram inbox. Tina Fisher wrote in and asked, can you cook and what is your specialty? I can cook. I actually really like cooking. I just don't normally have the time to do it because I'm always on the go. I don't know if I specialize in anything, but I can make a pretty mean breakfast. I mean, I can cook eggs really well. I worked in a French restaurant for a little while and I learned how to whip up some amazing eggs. Also, I can make waffles, pancakes, and French toast from scratch, and I can make this one Brazilian dish that uses refried beans that will mess up your life. I also have a pretty good recipe for chicken wings. Santiago G6484 wrote in and asked, how is your day going? And honestly man, I'm having a really good day. I had an amazing sleep last night and my diet has been on track, so I feel like I am full of energy. Also this morning I was able to go for a long bike ride before I came into the office, and that energized me for the day. But thank you for asking. And finally Marcom31 wrote in and asked, what are your top 10 games that you like? Man, this is a very tough one to answer. I'm going to give you 10 games that I love, but in order to give you a solid list, I would have to sit down for hours to come up with something. This is in no particular order, but let's start off this list with Overwatch. I've gone back to this game again and again, and it's always amazing. I love boss battles, so I'd put Cuphead and Zelda Ocarina of Time on this list. And Destiny 1 multiplayer, I loved. Bioshock is incredible. Sekiro I could not put down. Shadow of the Colossus rocked me as a kid, even though it doesn't really hold up. Banjo-Kazooie, Halo 3, Final Fantasy VI, and Earthbound are probably tide. That's a quick list. If I had time to think of it, I'm sure some of these would change. Alright everyone, that has been everything for you today. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Jade Arena, and send me all your scary ghost stories. Bye. This next story was told by a young boy who grew up in a very old house when he was young. That's kind of redundant. They brushed it off and said it was a dream. Oh,